Ever feel like there's a giant hole in your chest? Today, we're diving deep into this struggle, exploring the dark corners of our minds, and sharing ways to navigate this seemingly endless journey. Let's dive in.
Fellow men, how do you fill the giant hole in your chest? It's there every day, it is heavy and it never leaves. I have tried almost everything and welp, I do not know how to go on anymore with this. It is not like I am going to just quit. I just don't have the motivation to carry on. The hole is always going to be there and I am super afraid that it is pulling me in.
Sometimes, sharing our struggles can be the first step towards healing. One life lesson we learn through our own battles is that it's okay to ask for help. Let's read from the comments.
Man, this will probably get buried or ignored, but I got to try. I felt that hole for 10 plus years. I had no idea what it was, just accepted it as anxiety's life brings. Then finally it just got too much for me. I was sick of being the guy who was trying to keep it together while it all fell apart. I started waking up earlier, working out, eating healthier blah blah, made a decent difference. But while I worked out, I thought hard on why I wasn't happy. And it pretty much stemmed from me knowing I could be doing better in life. I come from a family of I'll do it later kind of people. And that's how I was treating my future. As silly as it sounds, I wrote out my goals, financial, health, spiritual. And now I kinda just make an enormous effort on making sure I'm closer to becoming the guy I want to be, and it's helping a lot.
That is a very good game plan. There's something about writing those things down with pen and paper that makes it more meaningful. But of course, then you gotta then take the action.
This is really it. Life is empty when it's not filled with the things that bring growth and joy to it. Career, hobbies, fun, friends, fitness, romance. We all have different weights we put on these, but I reckon each of these are to one degree or another part of a fulfilling life. Once I committed myself to these things, i.e. once I committed to myself, that void was filled.
It's funny to me that the word tool is used as an insult. Men are wired to be of use. Our operating system demands that we be utilized, lest we feel obsolete. That pick usually comes from, and only you can define what needs fit there. Please reach out to your supporters, any value peers. Doesn't have to be heavy. The act of calling reminds us of our connections. They need to feel used too.
I'm in my late 20s, single/alone for 7 to 8 years, 6 feet, 290 pounds of round boy. Looking at myself in the mirror and not liking it. I was calling in sick to work twice a week, but that was just to sit on my computer all day. Should have been fired, but I was very good on the job when I did show up. Later found out, that's why I didn't get fired. My biggest problem though, I was a chat room addict. Big time, back in the Napster days. An admin actually. That's all I did. Except drink at least a 6-pack a day. My job paid good hourly, but my absence was leading to financial troubles, including late rent payments. To be honest, I was a mess and going nowhere. So back to me in the mirror, call it rock bottom or whatever, but after a while of disappointment in my reflection, I walked over to my computer and typed in "been nice knowing you guys," but did not hit enter. I wasn't at all suicidal, just incredibly nervous at this threshold moment I was having. Panic attack hits me. I walk around the room, heart racing, sweating. Shaking a little too. 12 to 15 laps maybe around the room. Then, in my hurried pace circling, on one of my passes by the computer, I hit the enter button. Didn't even look at the responses. Kept walking around the room for a bit more until I got a hold of myself. Then I just shut the computer off and walked around a while longer. LOL. And I never went back to Napster. Well, within 2 years of that day, I was engaged, 50 pounds lighter. Went to work every day. My life is more about moderation. A little beer, a little smoke, and a little internet is okay. Got a wife and 2 kids now and all doing awesome. It can be done.
My buddy, after meeting my family for the first time, said something when we were driving that I've never forgotten, 20 years later. Your family and my family are different. I told your family about my idea for a business and they asked me about my business plan. They asked me about my background with the product. They asked me how I would market and produce it. I told my family and they said it would never work, and then we never talked about it again. I see why you're pushy towards me sometimes. I've got an amazing and positive family.
I think the key from your post is to be goal-driven. I used to be the same way before. I'd come home, drink a little bit, and play video games every night. Then I started getting panic attacks about my life, and I'm not doing anything, and that one day I'm just gonna die. But now I see the goals ahead of me. I think part of it is just the fact that my mind is busy now. It doesn't need to be work-related even. Fitness goals and getting better at one hobby is a good start. Makes it more meaningful if you have a community to discuss with.
I found that spray foam insulation helps, but you got to trim off the excess and then use drywall spackle before you paint over it. I know. My jokes aren't funny. For reasons I am not going to explain, because no one ever understands. I have endured 42 years of misery, and at my current age I feel like I'm just going through the motions by rote, not because I want to but because I have to. Some days are better than others. Just this week has been a total train wreck, but I keep going, sometimes not even knowing why, or what unseen force is urging me onwards, even when it seems hopeless. I'm sorry, that wasn't groundbreaking or amazingly profound. I really do want to help you out, but I'm just terrible at being poetic.
You're not alone. Many of us battle this invisible burden, searching for ways to fill the void and find motivation to carry on. Let's keep reading.
I've been there too. Tried to fill the hole with booze. 0/10, do not recommend. Something has happened in your life, likely through childhood and or adolescence, where there was something you needed for your development that you did not receive. This creates profoundly damaged people, who have holes that can never be filled. Why? Because we cannot go back in time and make decades of addiction, psychological abuse, and neglect go away. The best you can do is learn to accept your hole. For me, this came down to breaking a cycle of substance abuse. Reading extensively on childhood trauma, understanding what was done to me, and how it affected me as an adult. Having at least one consult with a psychiatrist, who can explain the physiological effects of trauma, and a why to explain how you feel. Learning coping mechanisms, which may include medication, exercise, diet, CBT, or a combination of all. Finally, accepting that you have a hole you cannot get rid of, and making peace with this. When we understand the why, and learn to accept, it is amazing how much power this hole loses. Good luck, many of us have been there.
This really opened my eyes because I, too, have had a lot of trauma growing up here in Memphis. Did things I regret, very much so, just because that's what's expected. As men, we are told not to cry, whine, or make excuses. You suck it up, and keep it moving, do what you have to do. Therapy? That's frowned upon, as well, or met with jokes while being roasted about needing a tampon. Or does your panties come in lavender? Or some statement that lets you know men don't do that. I've lived inside my own head since I was, well, really can't recall the age. But I know it's further back than 16. Never being able to talk to anyone without ridicule, and dealing with nightmare situations in your own head, figuring out what to do. That lasted me until I hit 40s, then things start crumbling, and falling apart, can't really hide it anymore. You have moments where you break down crying, and seeking God for answers, and forgiveness, but feeling like you don't deserve either. Can't maintain a normal lifestyle of work, home, activities, and repeat. It's always some kind of darkness involved. For me, it's street nonsense. I feel more comfortable around people you shouldn't feel comfortable around, or should be around. I don't know where I was going with all this, but seriously, your reply helped.
Glad to hear. We all have a choice. We can continue to allow the bad things that happen to us to continue to destroy our lives. Or we can empower ourselves to accept that we cannot change what happened, understand how it still affects us today, then accept this and move forward as best we can. Important when reading is to find those who've suffered the same as you have. Seeing how you feel put into words is life-changing, as is understanding you are not alone. And most importantly, understanding that in most cases of childhood trauma, it was not your fault, no matter how much you were told it was. One of the most powerful scenes in any movie for those with childhood and youth trauma.
There's something you didn't do because you thought it was too hard or you weren't good enough. Now is the time to do it.
I would second this. Reading some of these comments, the only way someone could have gotten into this position, but in their 30s and 40s, they definitely don't live the life they want and didn't make the choices they wanted. Take that leap of faith. Quit the comfy but unfulfilling job. Move the cities or countries. Leave the relationship of convenience. I know it's hard. I'm standing in front of it now and I am not taking my advice, but it's the advice I would give. Your life will be more rocky, but those rocks fill the hole. It's my conviction that the best life is one where at the end there is nothing else for you to do here, you've done everything and have no regrets.
Learn stuff, get validation, repeat.
First and foremost, identify the source of this hole you feel. Maybe it's something you can fix directly, maybe it's not. If this feeling affects you too much, that's nothing to be ashamed of, but it is a sign that you need a professional to talk to. I personally keep my spirits high with my hobbies. I play D&D, and fleshing out that world a bit more is always a good distraction from some less fun parts of life.
Absolutely killing yourself in the gym and taking long-ass hikes.
Opening up to others can lighten the load and bring unexpected insights and encouragement. Embrace each day as a new opportunity to find meaning, connection, and purpose. Let's keep going.
Wife, child, and pets. The things I live for. Besides that, I mostly smoke weed, play video games, and masturbate. Spending time with friends helps too.
I've had this same question. I do have a wife, but we won't be having children of our own. We might adopt, but not sure yet. I have a strong urge to raise things well that I've been trying to find a healthy outlet for. I've thought a lot about what I want to put energy into, and for me it's mainly being there for my close friends and their kids. Kind of taking up the goduncle role or some shit. It's been rewarding more or less, but I suspect I'll end up needing something more as I get older.
Find someone to help. Go volunteer at an organization that you think does good work. You'll become part of a network that way, make friends, and nothing makes you feel good like helping other people.
Heavy sigh. My kids. I separated when they were babies, 1 and 3. I thought life was over. The struggle was real. 25 years later, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. I just woke up one morning and replaced that hole with responsibility and love. We did everything together, and I think I did something right because they're grown and have their own place, but we still get together at least twice a week. Yeah, my kids filled that hole.
Excessive amounts of pizza, leading to long periods of self-loathing. That's my usual routine.
Some mushroom and write down the question.
I remind myself that every moment I'm still alive, I can strive to start anew, or repair, or anything. Taking action is key. It's the absolute hardest part, and it's not immediately effective, but once you start, you become distracted of what ails you, and over time, as long as you keep trying and building, it eventually amounts to something which is better than nothing and better than where you were.
The emptiness you feel doesn't define you. It's just a part of your story. Embrace each day as a new opportunity to find meaning, connection, and purpose. Stay strong, and remember, you're not alone in this. Subscribe to hear more.